But let's talk about the TCU Horned Frogs. I don't think you need a note card for this one because we have been talking about these Horned Frogs for a very long time. This conference, how deep it is. TCU, Sonny Dykes. This team is finding a way to just win football games. No matter what the consequences, no matter what the situation, TCU is finding a way to win football games. They are 9-0, and they are going to find themselves in the top 4, I think, when Tuesday's rankings come out for the college football. They beat Texas Tech 34-24 on the back of not only just Max Duggan, but Kendre Miller. Mm-hmm. How amazing. He surpasses 1,000 yards on the season on an amazing game. He went for 158 yards and a touchdown on 21 attempts. The last 2 games against West Virginia, he averaged 10 yards a carry. And last week against Texas Tech, this past week, I should say, he averaged 7.5 yards per carry. This TCU team, yes, they're just finding ways to win, if you will, but they're firing in all cylinders. This team is dangerous, and they're not getting the love they deserve in the rankings. And we're going to talk about that after we discuss this game. But watch out for this team. Watch out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they just don't panic. We were talking about how Tennessee changed its game plan for whatever reason, and TCU just does what it does. And I think some of the love they don't get is because they're not flashy until late in the game. They generally always start slow. Maybe they're coming from behind pretty often. I thought I saw something where they were trailing going, I think 4 times of their wins. They were behind at some point in the game. But that's the whole point. I mean, Sonny Dykes has a game plan. Dugan executes that game plan. Their defense makes the big plays at the big moments. Okay, yes, they may stumble early or give up a big play here and there. Yeah, I mean, you can say that about a whole lot of different defenses. They play their game. When you play your game and you stay consistent, you're not going to get nervous in the fourth quarter if you need to come from behind. You've gotten it done all year, so it's not strange territory for you. You haven't been, I haven't been blowing teams out all year, and now suddenly, oh my God, we need to rally here in the second half. So you could say that about Tennessee to a degree that they're not used to being in that particular, other than the Alabama game, in that particular scenario. But TCU is just slow and steady. Let's just play our football. Let's not worry about the polls yet. Let's not worry about the headlines. I don't even know that the players, I mean, of course, every player down deep wants to be considered for a Heisman, sure, or some national award. I don't think that really, you don't hear a lot of talk about that from the players themselves. So TCU is the kind of team that no one's going to want to play in the college football playoff.
I agree.
Because they just do it, and they don't care if you have all the film on them. They don't care.
They got to play Texas next week, and we just talked about how, first of all, they won the game. They found ways to win. They won without their leading receiver. Quentin Johnson wasn't even in the game, and he's probably my favorite receiver so far this year. He makes unbelievable catches. I can't wait to see him on Sundays because he is going to be one of those players that I feel like we talk about for the next decade if he gets on the right team. They play Texas next week. This is the College Game Day already set up for next week. Second time in Austin for the season. Last time College Game Day was in Austin, it was that crazy Texas-Alabama game. We saw Quinn Ewers go wild for a quarter, and Texas wound up just missing Alabama. TCU are 9-0. They have a chance to go 10-0, and they're right now against Texas. They are a 7-point underdog. Wild. I don't get it. However, we said the same thing about Texas being a favorite against Kansas State, and they got the job done. But everyone keeps sleeping on this TCU team. If you haven't figured it out yet, they find ways to win the football game. And I don't see that being any different. Unless we hear some crazy news. Quentin Johnson's injury was just an ankle injury, so I'm sure he'll be back. I'm sure he'll be back and ready to roll for the game against Texas. I just can't see TCU losing this game against Texas Longhorns. Texas, I feel like, is the most, and I hate to say it because I really like what Quinn Ewers is doing, but I feel like this team, 6-3, they're doing great, but they're way too high in the rankings. Texas is getting a lot more love than they deserve. Prove me wrong. I've already ate my words about Georgia this week. Maybe I'll eat my words about Texas. I just can't see it happening. I think TCU is going to win that football game. I'm sure we'll be talking about that one on our Saturday morning special, though, without question, Steve.
Oh, absolutely. And then I'm really curious to see on Tuesday when the playoff rankings come out. Are they going to keep going chalk, like statistical chalk?
Yeah.
Or are they going to look at it and have the conversations that you and I are just having about TCU and say, you know what? They're undefeated. They always get it done. There's not a whole lot of wild inconsistency. I think Ohio State, maybe they were complacent against Northwestern. It's hard to say. Michigan was trailing at halftime against Rutgers. And as a Rutgers follower, I almost had to go and have my heart device recalibrated because, I mean, Rutgers, they don't score on anybody, but still they were ahead against Michigan. I mean, of course, the game ended the way you would expect it to end.
Yeah.
But so you look at that and you say, well, if you're going to forgive that performance by Ohio State, forgive that bad first half by Michigan against Rutgers, why can't we give that same love to TCU? And I think it really comes down to the ratings game.
I think you're right.
It's unfortunate. I mean, there's a business aspect to college sports, whether we like it or not. You very rarely hear the word amateur sports used talking about the NCAA and about college sports anymore. Maybe the non-revenue sports, sure. Cross country, whatever, swimming, sure, okay. But the big revenue sports, it's big revenue, it's big business. So I'm just really curious about this. And as good as as well as Texas has recovered in the middle of the season here, I don't see how they find a way for TCU to lose to them. TCU would have to lose the game. I can't see Texas winning the game in this scenario.
And we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen TCU lose a football game. We've seen them find ways to win.